Welcome to He Did This to Me, the sports podcast from a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Knicks, Jets, and Mets fans. My name is Nick, aka Goody, and with me is my old man, aka the big guy, Noel. And just like his name, all we do is win. Let's get to the show. It's time to begin. The New York Knicks on New Year's Day, they beat the Timberwolves 112 to 106. On Wednesday, they beat the Bulls 116 to 100. There were some other games that happened before that since the last time we spoke, but those don't count because Saturday morning, we got the news and we found out that OG Anunoby had been traded to the New York Knicks along with Precious Achiuwa as well as Malachi Flynn. And the Knicks sent back RJ Barrett, a second-round pick, and Emmanuel Quickley. Before we dive into those games and some other performances, just give me a little bit of how you felt initially when you got the text. I think I'm the one that broke the news to you. You got the text to me from me telling you about the trade.
Yeah, I mean, initially, I was. Listen, I hate to see Quick go, but I understand that that's more of a business decision because you just can't keep him, and pay him $25-30 million a year, and he's going to be just backing up Brunson. And I'm sorry, but he's not going to, take Brunson's spot. So I understood why Quick would have to go. He's not big enough to play like your two guard. So I understand why he had to go. And RJ, we spoke about last week. Love RJ, rooted for RJ, wish RJ well, but I think we've seen what RJ is. And, listen, if RJ comes out and becomes some amazing all-star 25-point game scorer, we'll all be regretful, and clearly we were wrong. But I seriously doubt that's going to happen. I think what we got in return with OG Anunoby is a very, very good piece for us that I'm sure we'll speak about. Just fits well with the team. And I'm hoping Precious Achiuwa can do some things for us on the inside. I think he's a little undersized to play the center position, so I wouldn't mind seeing us get another like 6-7 footer. Although Hartenstein has been fantastic. I think those are good pieces, and we still got to see what Malachi Flynn is all about since he's a little dinged up right now.
Yeah, so my initial thought, very similar to you, was, damn, we gave up quick. Like that was the thing that I did not see happening this season, like during the season. I thought that maybe we might lose him in to restricted free agency come this summer, but I did not think that, we were going to not the IQ wasn't going to be a big part of our plans for the rest of this season. Now, what you realize with this is that RJ was the throw-in. Okay.
Right.
So it was like, hey, if you guys
They wanted Quick.
they wanted Quick, and they were like, if you want us to take on this guy and his contract, we're not doing that for just him and picks. We want this guy that we can invest in and that we can, put time in. And they need a lead guard badly. They don't have a ball handler. And Quick is not only a lead guard, but he can kind of play that off guard as well, which Scotty Barnes is somewhat of a facilitator and kind of a point forward kind of guy. So him playing off of him kind of works for them. And they also kind of needed just another guy who was a ball handler and could create some shots for himself. How efficient they are, that's a different question. But RJ is that guy who can do exactly that. So I just think that the initial pain of losing Quick, and that's that initial hurt was bad, and it's not going away anytime soon. He had a good game last night, and I look at that, and there's a part of me. Quick is one of my favorite Knicks over the last few seasons. I love that guy. I've loved him since he was a rookie. Such an infectious bounce to the way he plays. So yeah, my initial reaction was definitely one of like, oh no. But then as you start to think about not only the financial part of it that you spoke about, but also just the fit part, you start to think, you know what? We just got this guy who makes us a little bit longer, who gives us some more defense. And then you have Precious Achua, which I don't really know too much about him. He's definitely undersized. We can see that in the time that he's only 6'8". I mean, playing center at 6'8" is a little bit tough. And since he's been on the Knicks, you've seen a couple times where he's just outmatched simply because he's just not tall enough. But this guy, Malachi Flynn, he's had at least one or two games against the Knicks where he was just like unstoppable. So
Right.
clearly he doesn't play like that all the time, or he'd be a much more highly regarded player. But when I look at him, I think, maybe he can be a guy that contributes as well, especially on that bench unit, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, the initial thing for me was, oh man, I can't believe we lost Flynn. But I think that before even the first game, you came to me and said, I'm all in. I'm all in on our boy OG. And I was, we're always going to find a way to be positive, but I was already kind of feeling that way. And then we get to see this guy actually play some basketball. And OG gets on the court, and immediately the size, the length, so many things that jump off the screen. Tell me about your first impressions of our new small forward OG Anunoby.
Well, not so small. I mean, the guy's pretty big, man. I told you he looked like he was taller than Rand to me at sometimes when they were standing next to one another, or at least equal height.
Julius
Definitely,
slouches a little bit.
yeah, definitely bigger than RJ. And then the wingspan, the arm length is incredible. It's obvious. It jumps off the screen, his length and what he can do on the court. He played very well that first game. Sticking the 3-pointer, especially the corner three. He's the king of deflections. I mean, the guy, he just gets more deflections than anybody I've seen in just 2 games. And to be very honest, and I'm sure this episode is going to sound like a RJ hate episode, but the fact is, this guy does so many things better than RJ. He's frankly the player we were hoping RJ would become. Honestly, in a lot of ways. He's just, and some people say, I saw some idiotic posts about, well, RJ scored 18 points a game. He's only averaging 15. Doesn't matter. It's not a points thing. This guy's so much more efficient in how he plays on the court. It's just going to, and I tell you what, his scoring average is going to get a little better, maybe. Brunson's assists are going to go up. Randall's assists are going to go up because when this guy gets the ball, he usually sinks the bucket, or if he gets in the lane, he gets to the hole and he scores. He's not missing a lot of layups like someone who will remain unnamed.
Well, I mean, listen, we don't want to bash RJ, but
No.
at the end of the day, like, it's so glaring. I mean, it was just so glaring so early. Little things like, first of all, consistently, or at least, at a high level, hitting that corner three. And also just the fact that it just looks like an effortless shot that comes off his hand and has a chance to go in, which with RJ, it looked like there were so many things going on to get this shot off. And then as soon as it was coming out, it was like, that's a duck, no chance. And, we're running back down the other way. The other thing is the combination of being taller, having just wildly long arms and big hands and big wide shoulders. Early in the game, when DiVincenzo goes into the lane and passes it off to him and he catches it and goes up with 2 hands and dunks it, RJ just simply cannot do that. He never does that. And
Never.
not just RJ, but the Knicks in general are devoid of a player that can do that. He brings a certain level of athleticism that we did not have until we have him. And you see it on both sides of the ball. We'll dig into the defense, but offensively, one of the things that you see out of him is that he's just very decisive. He's very, very decisive. He's not going to dribble the ball a lot. There's only so many guys that you can have that dribble the ball, okay? And
Right.
we have 2 guys who are very ball dominant, dribble heavy players in Brunson and Randall. And RJ is just like a smaller, worse version of Randall. And then, so what you end up seeing is just lower efficiency play by this one guy who ends up taking the ball out of the hands of the guys who are actually really good at it. So he's just a better fit. And I think playing with a guy like Siakam and playing with Scotty Barnes and being, offensively the third best out of the 3 of them, that didn't work out well for him there. And that didn't work, just overall team and fit wise. And so it's really one of those things that I think is going to end up going to be a good trade for both sides. And I mean, this guy, OG, his ability to just finish above the rim and his ability to go straight up from up underneath the rim. Whereas with RJ, that's going to be a pump fake. He's going to go up, and somebody is going to jump up in the air and with their elbow is going to spike that ball farther than Josh Hart threw his pass in last night's game. I mean, it's just it's just a totally different dynamic and aspect, and it's exactly what this team needed.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right. And, like I also saw some people say, oh, when he gets acclimated to the offense and they start running more plays for him. No, no. They don't need, that's the great thing about this guy. You don't have to run any plays for him.
Right. But okay, let me just counterpoint that. A lot of people say that the reason that he was ready to get out of Toronto is because they weren't expanding his role.
Right. Right. And I get that. But you know what? If he stays here and you don't have to run plays for him, but he's getting a lot of balls, he's scoring, he's getting dunks, we're playing defense, he's going out in transition, and we're winning, I bet that won't be as big a problem. Okay. I mean, if he's part of something good that's really growing here, I don't think he'll have any problem. He's a CAA guy. I think we're going to be able to keep him.
Yeah, listen, I hope that we're going to be able to keep him obviously long term because we gave up an asset like Quickley to be able to get him. But as far as, his expanded offensive role, I think that he's going to get an expanded offensive role just in the fact that he's going to get a lot more wide open shots because of the guys he's playing with now. He's playing with guys that draw a lot more attention than the guys that he was playing with before. I know, listen, Siakam's good. And, that kid, Scotty Barnes, he's no slouch. He's very, very good. It's only his second year in the league. But when it comes down to it, they just simply aren't the type of players who can just cook on a consistent basis like Brunson and like Julius. And therefore, that attention is going to lead to OG being able to cut and not OB. Lead to him being able to, cut, whether it be from the dunker spot down the baseline or straight down the middle and get a lot more easy looks. And I think both of those guys, are willing passers in Julius and Brunson. So I think that his offensive game will expand because also the pick and roll, I saw especially in the Chicago game that we were running we were starting to run some pick and roll with Brunson as the ball handler and him as the screener. I think that that's going to just lead to him getting the ball. And the other thing I like about him is that even when I said he was decisive, he's also decisive when it comes to the pass. He occasionally will make a very good pass. That one play where he attacked the closeout, passed it off to Josh Hart. Josh Hart was able to put up the little floater for the Minnesota game. And yeah, like he just seems to not only be exactly what we were missing, but the perfect complement. And then also on top of all of that, he just gives our entire team a certain level of versatility because of all the different things that he can do. I want to start calling this guy, we should call him handcuffs because it's like, Cat's getting off. Okay, OG. Edwards, AE, he's getting off. Okay, OG. Specifically in that Bulls game with DeRozan and Kobe White, DeRozan starts going off in the second quarter when OG's got 2 fouls. There's another guy on the Knicks who I'm going to be screaming all the time about how the refs just like call the worst fouls on him ever. But he gets the 2 fouls. He's out. DeRozan just torches us in the second quarter of that Bulls game. And then in the third quarter, OG gets back in. And it's not even like DeRozan wasn't even attempting shots. It's not though he was. It was like he was like, okay, all right.
Just somebody else do it. Somebody else do it. This guy's on me. Somebody else do it.
And then that kid, Kobe White, he did the same thing to him. There's a couple of times where he got matched up with him, and Kobe White was just like, give the ball away from me. And it just seems like you throw that cat on somebody, and it's lockup time. And there was plays last night. I know we talked about it via text where he shut down the entire play by himself, where he's guarding the man up top at the point of attack. He makes him get flummoxed, throws the ball up to the side. That guy comes off the screen. He comes over, helps on him, and he bothers that shot. It ends up being like an air ball. I mean, the guy is he's so long. He's one of the few players that I've ever seen that is really good at playing both the passing lane and his man. That usually guys are one or the other. They're like, I'm the guy who gets steals, but they're not really good point of attack. And then to be able to do that, those two things, and then also be able to help. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a defender this versatile uh, on the Knicks.
I tell you, he's a fantastic defender, Nick. And you know how New York Knicks fans love defense. If this guy keeps going at this clip, man, he is going to be such a fan favorite. And funny, you said Obi before because it made me think of something. Obi, if we get off on a total tangent here, but Obi is a guy that has the body and the athleticism, not quite like OG, but the body and athleticism to do what OG does.
I
But
think
he doesn't.
he's more
He doesn't do it.
athleticism. He's got
That's
more
right.
athleticism.
He doesn't do it.
So he's
you have to
somebody
say to
that you would
yourself,
look
why?
You would look at him as maybe a what if.
Possibly a what if. I mean,
A little
yeah,
foreshadowing.
Right. But no, he just doesn't do it, Nick, and he's not the same guy. Honestly, if I was like Obi's dad or his friend, I'd be like, dude, look at this guy, man. You can do what he does.
Right.
Why are you not doing what he does?
Right.
You know? He's clearly not as good a shooter, but still, I mean, defensively, he could do what OG does.
Right. He just doesn't have an interest in doing it.
I don't know. I mean, I'll assume that some coach sometime in his life tried to push him to be more, and I'm sure the young man feels like he's being as much as he can be. But I don't know. I hope in his life he finds someone else who pushes him even more. Because he has the ability.
I mean, listen, the guy was college player of the year. He's
Right.
a big time scorer, all of that. So,
Right.
That's the player that he some guys love play defense, other guys don't. That's, since the beginning of time. And then the really, really great ones are the guys who can really be good on both sides of the ball. And those guys are few and far between. I mean, even when you start to look at the upper echelons of the greatest of all time, when you look at the Michaels and the Kobe's, it's because look at all those defensive defensive team, all NBA teams that they made, as well as what they did on the other side. There's a whole lot of other guys who can cook, but they're never going to put that emphasis on that side of the ball. OG, obviously, his emphasis is a little bit more on the defensive side, and it's just his, like I said, his ability to help, his just overall instincts when it comes to playing defense, or some of those things I think can't be taught. I think some of those things that it's just like either you have that and it's an effort thing, but some of it is just like it's an innate ability to do certain things, especially when it comes to timing and whatnot, that I think that he has. That play that yesterday where we had three different offensive rebounds, I think two by Hartenstein and one by Hart, and then we still end up we put up three threes. Julius misses the last three, and then Caruso grabs the ball and OG just slaps it away from him, takes it, goes up and dunks the ball. And it's just like, there's just no, I'm sorry, again, I don't want to bet. There's no way RJ ever makes that play. Period. He just doesn't. He doesn't.
No, there's no way. There's nobody else on the Knicks who makes that play, man. Honestly, consistently.
Not
consistently,
no.
See something like that from Randall and so forth.
Every once in a while.
Right. But no, OG's a special player, man. And I think as happy as we are with him right now, I think it's going to get a lot better from here on out. And he's going to provide a lot of exciting moments on that Madison Square Garden floor. And he's going to have that crowd rocking, man. The people are going to be chanting his name. You watch. It's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely going to happen because he's going to have he's already had a couple sequences where it's just like, oh, my, like where he makes the play on one end and then goes down and gets the dunk on the other end. I mean, like, the guy, it's just, he is so just New York basketball. I mean, everything about the way that he plays, plus 19 in the first game, plus 35 in the second game.
Wow.
And, now on the flip side, in two games that Toronto has won, RJ's been a -7 and a -2. And in that first game, he had 5 turnovers. That's the thing about RJ. I can look at his line and I can tell certain things. Like, okay, He got some extra points because he went to the line. He's been shooting his free throws well this year. He's got some. He missed a layup here or there. One of those threes just barely drew iron, and he has 5 turnovers. Or there was 5 turnovers in the first game. I think 3 turnovers in the second game. It's just a level of efficiency that he doesn't bring. But hey, I wish him the best in Toronto. The kid gets to go home. Quick is gonna ball. Quick had 26 last night. In the first game, he only had 14, but he was in foul. So we had 4 fouls in the first half, which is not like Quick. It's gonna be interesting now to see what Quick becomes. And no matter what it is, I'm gonna be okay with it. But just because, as you said, there was no way that we were going to be able to pay him the money that he wants as the backup to, one of our 2 best players. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. I'll definitely be rooting for him, except for those 4 times a year that he plays against us. I root for him to do well. I do. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna be one of those people who acts like, oh, I just root for him to do well. I don't exactly want to see Quickley go out here and become like some all-star level, all NBA player. That's something that would always, that would always, hurt a little bit on the inside. But we'll see what happens with him. I think it's a good trade overall. One thing I wanted to mention, you talked about Julius and him being one of the few people that can make a play like that. I'm telling you, that play yesterday Julius had where he like makes the steal and then he saves it and throws it back in. You know what play I'm talking about against the Bulls?
Yes.
Man, that's that OG effect right there.
That's right.
That's the OG effect.
Right.
Everybody's gonna start. Everybody has to step their fucking game up a little bit now because they see the way this guy is, as he said, being a playmaker on defense. I love that line. Love that line.
That's great. That's great, and it's perfect. I mean, it's fitting. It's perfect. No, he's gonna raise the tide of our whole defense, man. Absolutely. The shame of it is that, man, I think about this guy with his length. If we still had Mitch right now, man, oh man, what a defensive. The lane would just be just like Lock City, man. So next year we'll get that. And listen, don't take anything away from Hartenstein. He's been fan-flippin-tastic. Blockenstein. He's been amazing. I'm so impressed with him and everything he's doing. And the block shots are just fantastic, especially against Rudy Gobert. That was awesome. Loved it. Stuffed the Frenchie. And then even last night, he did it a couple times against Chicago too. Yeah, he's really stepped his game up. And like you said, OG's defense is going to pick everybody up.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Blockenstein, as both you and your grandson love to call him, he refuses to call him Hartenstein. He said yesterday that they said his name wrong. His name is Blockenstein with a big smile on his face. Yeah, 3 big blocks on Rudy Gobert, all right at the rim. Just fantastic, get you up out of your seat type of blocks. That one where Rudy Gobert tries to cock it back like he's going to just throw it down, and he's one of those guys again. That timing is innate. Like that's something that you cannot teach. That way that he's always able to meet guys, at the apex, right at the rim, and be able to block their shots. And then, last night he had 10 points, 20 rebounds, had 5 more blocks. The other thing about him is the outlet pass. I mean, his ability when he gets a rebound to just find Brunson and just boom, and Brunson is going. Where like Mitch at that point still is like turning around and looking for Brunson. One conversation I refuse to have is the Hartenstein Mitch conversation. I refuse to have that conversation. That's something we can worry about at the end of the season, in the off season. What
do you mean, like who's better or who should start?
Oh, I've seen a lot of people talking about like, hey man, like what do you do moving forward? Like if you have to go into next season and you're talking about who's your starting center if you have your druthers, because you're not going to be able to keep both of them. Hartenstein is playing himself to the point where you're not going to be able to sink that amount of money into the 5 position. So I've been seeing that conversation. Like I said, I refuse to have it. I don't want to have it. No, we're not having that. Everything's good right now. We don't even fuck all that bullshit. We're not talking about that. But a question I do want to ask you, because I saw this online and I want to, I want to defer to my elder Knicks statesman, because though I did watch these teams play, I was pretty young at the time. And they said that getting OG was like when the Knicks got Xavier McDaniel.
Yeah, I mean, X brought almost like a fire. He was that fiery kind of guy, man, who, he brought it a little different than OG. He seemed a little more angry and ready to fight. OG actually seems like a very nice guy, but he brings that toughness. And yeah, X stepped up our defense. When X showed up, that stepped up our defense, and just the way we played the game was harder. And I think OG brings that to us, and we needed that. We needed that harder toughness in our team. And I think OG brings that. Yeah, I would compare the two. I hadn't read that, but I would compare the two.
Yeah, no, they made some of the same points that you just did. So I just wanted to get your take on that. I could definitely see some parallels there. Reading Blood in the Garden. Shout out to my man Baum who gave me that book. But yeah, reading that book, they talk a lot about how he just brought a different edge and a different intensity as soon as he came in. Him and Mason getting in fights, the very first practice and things like that. And some of the battles and back and forth he had with guys like Scottie Pippen, and just one of the first guys to just really stand up to those people. And
Yeah.
obviously the game is way different now. There's not as much any of that. I would say honestly, if there's anybody who's brought that to the Knicks, it's been Josh Hart. Josh Hart's the guy who's kind of given us a little. When he came in last year, it inflected a little bit of a little bit more fire in the belly, and that's continued. Josh Hart, him, and Grimes, I think both of those guys are going to benefit greatly from playing with OG because they're going to be able to play more in their position, more three or more two, depending on what we need at the time, and not always have to guard the best player. That defensive lineup against the Bulls late last night, where we had OG, Josh Hart, Julius, and Blockenstein, and Brunson at the point, you could see that when Josh Hart has to guard DeMar DeRozan, he might get cooked some. But when you put
Mm-hmm.
him on, somebody else, you get on Caruso or Williams, now things are a little bit different. He's able to really shine on defense and, really be able to do those little things he does so well, like obviously grab offensive rebounds and, grab the defensive rebound and push.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're going to see. I know that we're a little shorter on the bench. Obviously, we got to see what this guy Malachi Flynn can do. Hopefully Deuce keeps picking it up, and we need to see him pick it up. But I almost feel like with OG, you have a little more lineup flexibility because when we want to go small, he can be a big part of that. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? Where he can either play the center or Julius can play the center as far as guarding the other team's big man if the other team's big man isn't too huge. Um, I just think it gives us some flexibility and good defensive flexibility, which I think is key.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think all those things, I think it's going to benefit Julius sometimes where he's going to be able to be in the game. And if there's if there was times where Cat, Julius got some fouls. All right, Julius, let's put you over here and we'll go ahead and take this guy and put him on Cat. Where that was
Mm-hmm.
not a luxury that's not a luxury at all with RJ Barrett. So,
No.
and then the other thing about this guy, OG, is I was watching a video the other day of him just absolutely bothering and pestering Dame Dollar. So it doesn't matter if it's the point guard. It doesn't matter. Like I said, handcuffs. Whoever is getting off, it's just like, okay, OG, go quiet him down. All right. And then that's over. You're not doing that anymore. I mean, listen, Anthony Edwards still had 35, but a
Right.
lot of those were not against OG. But
That's right.
Anthony Edwards is Anthony Edwards, man. He's like a top 5 player in the league. He's going to do some
He's
things
the
like that.
Ant-Man.
Right. He's going to do something like that. But you also saw him make Anthony Edwards work. There was that one play where he's trying to, spin around the lane and he walks because he drags his pivot foot. There's another play where, he goes up, he just guy just stays on his feet because he's like, I'm tall, my arms are long, and Anthony Edwards has nothing to do, ends up throwing the ball away. And that play is another play where you look at that and you say, if RJ Barrett is guarding him, he jumps on that pump fake, Anthony Edwards goes up, takes the bump, doesn't care, puts it in, and it's an and one.
1,000%. No, he's very good at not leaving his feet and just playing good, solid, move your feet defense, which is what defense should be built on. Yeah, he's gonna make our team a lot better. I'm very excited to see what the next few weeks and few months with OG Anunoby brings us.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited about it as well. Your man Julius. we're running out of superlatives for this guy. Outplayed your boy Karl Anthony Towns. That even today, I'm still arguing with people on Twitter about the fact that we need to, while Julius is hot, we need to get rid of him and we need to get something back for him. We need to, get another star, somebody. And the people that talk about, and even Shams says, which Shams is pretty about as credible as it gets, talks about the fact that the Knicks will always have interest in Karl Anthony Towns. I don't get it. Julius clearly is better than him, in my opinion. Not just that
100%.
it's not just that he's a better basketball player. I like the way he plays more. He plays a more forceful, strong game. Cat's a little bit more of a perimeter guy. Julius, when it comes to durability, you can't even compare the two. He's much more durable than this guy. And I don't get why that continues. I don't know if you saw this, but today they came out with the leaders for the All-Star voting. Julius is not on the he's not in the top 10 and 4. He's not on the ballot.
Wow. Really?
It's craziness.
Is Brunson?
Brunson is 6th amongst the guards.
Hmm. All right. Well, I mean, see, I think Julius.
I don't think the coaches will leave Julius. So Julius is playing too well. Honestly, I really don't see.
Right. That's why I think the coaches will put him on.
They better because really, 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 I know that I have said things like, "Hey, man, he could be this. He's playing like this." You cannot argue with the fact that if you look at the full body of work of this season, but especially the last month, that he's been a top 10 player in the NBA. I mean, it's his ability to get to the rim and finish through contact. I mean, at the end of that Timberwolves game, it's maybe the best clutch performance I've ever seen from Julius. Just as far as, I mean, he had the shot in Miami last year, obviously, but just as far as just closing the game out, starting at the 5-minute mark, he gets in the lane, he does a little, jump, almost like half hook, puts that in. Then right after that is when he's at the top of the key, the clock is going down, and he takes a step back, boom. Then he's on the baseline, puts up a soft shot, hits the rim and goes in. He's out in front. Jalen Brunson hits him with the pass. He gets the high level, strong layup, full sprint, great pass, great catch, great finish, and then he makes the and one, gives the flex off, shows it to the Garden crowd. Just totally closed that game out. We were up by that game as much as 19, I think, in the third quarter, and then they stormed back, get it all the way down to 4 at one point. I'm pretty sure it was 99-95, and then Julius just refused to let us lose after that. We had Brunson having his third bad shooting game in a row, which almost never happens, and Julius just absolutely, positively refused to let us lose that game. He's been so dominant against the Bulls. He was shaky in the first half, was doing a few of the things that, it's like there's good Julius and bad Julius. We don't see bad Julius quite as much anymore, but that, turning your back and not seeing the double team. First of all, does anybody on the Knicks ever scream, "Watch your back"? Because there's a couple times where Julius, I could almost feel like he's like a little bit annoyed that nobody does it. Now, Julius, there's sometimes where nobody should have to yell that. You should just know that the double is coming, because guess what, Julius? The double is fucking coming. This is what the entire league does to you, and your back is to the basket. It's coming from the other side. But I would still yell at my teammates to yell at me, say like, watch your back, pick right, pick left. You need your teammates yelling that to you at all times, no matter what, even if you see it. But he goes into halftime, comes out for the second half, and then just goes right back into good Julius. Hopefully I'm getting to the point where a half like that, there's not a little part of me that gets a little nervous that it was all a mirage, that it was like a RJ pre-migraine type situation. But nah, man, that's just who he is. And, he's playing to his strengths. We've talked about before, he's shooting less threes. He's shooting more shots between 3 and 10 feet, and he's getting all the way to the rim. He's finishing strong. He's getting to the line, and he's hitting his free throws. And he still looks like he's stepping up the D here recently. Can't say enough about Julius. My guy, he's fucking balling right now.
Yeah, Julius is killing it. I mean, you cannot take anything away from him. He's doing everything, as we've spoken about before. His attitude on the court is fantastic. It's gotten so much better. I actually would go as far as to say Julius is leading at this point, as far as being a leader for the team at this point. And I had not felt that in the past, and I'm excited to see that from him. No, I mean, listen, Nick. Obviously, we want him to continue this for the rest of the season, and the real test, as everyone knows, will be in the postseason for him because that's where he slipped a little before. But I have a sneaky feeling, man, that he's gonna ball out in the postseason as long as he stays grounded and keeps going in the lane and bullying cats. He's gonna be very beneficial in the postseason, and he needs to be, he just needs to keep doing that and drawing fouls and getting the other team in foul trouble early. Yeah, Julius is doing it, man. I feel very confident with him going forward.
Yeah, that game against the Timberwolves, you're playing against the best defense in the league, the best team in the West, and they have guys like Cat and Gobert and AE who are all well regarded defensively. And the way that he closed that game out, I thought it was also important to me that the game was at home because
Hmm.
Julius sometimes has had some of his more of his he's played better on the road, especially in clutch moments than he has at the Garden. So
Hmm.
him being able to just the confidence. I mean, when that shot where he's at the top of the key and the clock is going down, that's a shot that, do we want you taking a long two? No, but time, possession, situation, that's the best shot. Take the easiest shot, Julius. That's the thing that we've seen him previously, where he would do something where he tries to go into the lane and does some wild flip shot. And it's just like he's like, "Yo, I'm a good jump shooter. I'm gonna go ahead and just casually just hit this right now, and calm this whole game down, and we're good." And he gave the like we got this. Like right afterwards, the maturation, it's happening before our eyes, and games like that, the way that he closed that game out gives me a lot of confidence for what we're going to see from him come this postseason.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm very impressed. And I'm telling you, his assist numbers and Brunson's assist numbers are going to. I think they'll get it like one more assist a game. Honestly, each of those guys will probably get. Their average will go up by one, which is a lot actually.
Yeah, a ton.
Um, yeah, so I think they'll get that simply because this guy's going to be finishing. Going to be finishing, and
He's
then
going to finish, and it's the spacing. I mean, look at it. That it's
right.
Brunson's had his two best assist games as a Knick in
That's
the
right.
first two games. He sets his career high with 14, follows it up with 13 against the Bulls,
That's
and
right.
that's because not only is the guy sticking the shot when he gets into him, but there's also just overall better spacing on the floor, and you don't have as many possessions where RJ is pounding the ball into oblivion in a bad, inefficient shot. So I think that yes, 100%, you're going to see him and Julius start to get more assists, especially as these guys get more comfortable with each other. As I mentioned before, Brunson, he had three bad shooting games in a row. There was those two games that didn't count, and then there was the game against the Timberwolves, and there was just no way that he was going to have four bad shooting games in a row. And last night, I mean, just absolutely was cooking from the beginning. Five of his first five, I think he was.
Yeah.
And you could just see that shot was pure, and he was being aggressive and putting them up. I love the fact that he's able to distribute in some of those other games when he wasn't able to, hit the shots that he normally does. But we need him to be a shot maker, and it was good to see him, start to do that again in his last game. After the game against Indiana this past Friday, I think I said to you after I saw that I was talking to you about the officials and getting on them and how there was a couple terrible calls, and I said to you, "Yo, somebody needs to get a fine or something like this after this game. Somebody needs to do something." Thibs did exactly that. Thibs just absolutely just went crazy on the refs. Talked about how Brunson gets hit all the time and how there's he doesn't get any respect from the refs. In that game against Indiana, there was two plays in a row where we're down six, and I think there's like 3 minutes to go. And there's two plays in a row where I mean he gets fouled, just absolutely just destroyed. Guys are just knocking him down to the ground, body, face, hand, all of it. And I'm glad that Thibs did that because I think that endears you to the teammates and to your guys. And I also think that there is a bit of an effect when you do that. The refs
No doubt.
start to try to even things out a little bit, even though last night it still kind of seemed like there were some times where both me and Brunson were looking around like, how is that not a foul? But I like that Thibs is the guy who does that. Eat the fine, get your point across, get these guys aware of the fact that, he's already 6 feet tall, and he doesn't need to be, assaulted every other play, and that be looked past as well.
No doubt. He's definitely Thibs did the right thing in letting people know. And, we've seen coaches do it for years, and Thibs is just taking a page out of that book, but he did it at the right time. Not too much, because if you scream too much, now you get ignored. But Thibs did what he needed to do as coach of the team and make it happen. So, listen, I'm a Thibs guy. So I think we're seeing good things. I think you got to give credit to Leon Rose and these guys too, because they're not doing stupid knee-jerk reaction trades and stuff like that, like we've seen in past administrations at the Garden. They're not doing knee-jerk stuff because the crowd or the fans are screaming for something. They're doing significant moves, but sober moves, not just go out and get somebody who scores a bunch of points, but they suck defensively. I think, going forward, we have to keep defense in mind with every move we make, because that's part of our identity, is playing good defense. And we had slipped on that the second month of the season. And now I'm hoping we're starting to get it back. And, that's who we want to be.
Yeah, you can't give up 130 every night. The Knicks had a streak where they're giving up 130 every night, and then we get we get it one player, we get rid of two, and now we've given up 106 and 100 in back-to-back games.
Right.
It seems trivial to say that it's that simple, but it really is that simple. If you watch this team, you realize just the entire defense is totally different with OG on the floor. One thing about Brunson, gotta cut down the turnovers for me, bud. He's getting a little loosey-goosey with the ball recently. That's not typically his thing. I know he's aware of it because I've heard him talk about it in post games multiple times. Even Julius in his post game yesterday said, hey, I turned the ball over 3 times in the first half. The first half was infuriating against the Bulls with the turnovers. I mean, it was just so clear that we're better than this team. We can beat this team, but we were just giving them the ball. Now they're out there running. Now they're hitting shots. They're feeling good about themselves. And all of a sudden, we're down by 5 at the half. And we had to make a little run there at the end of the second quarter just to be down by 5. But we come out in the second half. We take care of business. There was one run in the beginning of the fourth quarter where they got it back close again. And then we got the starters back in. Now, the problem is that our second unit in both of these games has looked a little bit, troublesome. One thing that I think that we can do is I would like to see your boy DiVincenzo. I'd like to see him play a little bit more with that second unit pairing, because I think after Brunson now, he's like the next small guard kind of initiator type player that we have. I don't think Deuce is that guy, but the second unit, it's definitely something that's very, very troublesome right now. Obviously you lose a guy like a potential 6th man of the year like Emmanuel Quickley, you're going to take a hit. Malachi Flynn, hopefully he can give us something when he gets back to the lineup. He came over here and he had an ankle. But currently that second unit, especially that second unit with Julius and, kind of just a bunch of guys, it looks like a couple years ago, the pre-Brunson Knicks, where against the Atlanta Hawks Knicks, where we're just giving it to Julius and a bunch of guys are trying to cut around him or just stand around and watch him. And it's just not pretty basketball, and it hasn't fared well on the court thus far. So definitely some players that need to get into their role, some things that we need to figure out, some things that Thibs needs to figure out when it comes to rotations and whatnot. And I've already seen him kind of tinkering and doing some different things that he typically does, but we can't have Julius and Brunson playing 40 minutes a night either. So got to figure something out with that. What are your thoughts on the second unit? What are your thoughts of Deuce specifically? And, can he be that second lead guard that comes in and runs the team?
As we've spoken about, I think Deuce is better than what he's shown recently. I think Deuce's confidence will grow. And as his confidence grows, I think he'll play better. I think he's a steady guy, and he's a good, excellent defender, excellent defender. So I think that'll make a big difference. Maybe if he's on the floor a couple times with this guy OG, that could be a nice little combination. I think the other point about OG that I see is that his defense and his ability on the court, and with us playing different and better defensively, that's going to lead to 4 or 5 more easy baskets per game. And that's going to make a huge difference. I'm always screaming about how difficult it is for us to score while other teams are getting easy baskets. I think we're going to see more of that now. And like you said, Thibs has to tinker with the rotations and so forth to juice up that second unit. Hopefully this guy Malachi Flynn can be somebody like that with that second unit. I don't know, but we need somebody to go in there and give that unit a little punch.
Yeah, no, definitely. You say there's somebody. I've seen some talk of, do we give Fournier another look in that second unit? This is a guy who's averaged 15 points, 6 different seasons. If you put him on the floor with a guy like OG, and then you have Deuce at the point, now you can maybe mask some of that defensive deficiency that he has. And he's a guy who can get a screen, hit a shot if you're not out on him. If you are out on him and you don't respect the roller, he can hit that roller. He's a shot maker, even though he hasn't looked like that much when he's played for the Knicks thus far this season. Do
But
you
if you
think
put
that
him on the court in the second team, Nick, who are you taking off the court?
that's the question? That's the question. I mean, it's gonna the casualty of that is either gonna be Grimes or maybe, a guy like Josh Hart, DiVincenzo. So one of those, wing type players is going to be getting a little bit less minutes. But, if especially if I don't know if we can wait for Deuce. I don't know if we can wait for Deuce to get more confident. In the NBA, things come at you quick. If it takes 10, 15 games, all of a sudden things can be totally different. And we're actually coming out of that really tough part of our schedule where it's our time now to stack some wins. Like we need to do what like the Clippers just did, where they go
Right.
13-2, and now they go from being 500, another 9 games over 500, looking great. So we need to do that right now. And I don't know if we have time for Deuce. So maybe internally, the answer could be a little bit more Fournier. I don't see that happening because Tim don't play that guy unless he has to. I mean,
Right, it's defense. And I think, the guy who really has to step it up here, Nick, just listening to what you're saying, is Grimes. We need Grimes to be uber aggressive on offense when he's in the game. Let's go, man. You can do it. I believe he can. He just has to be confident and be aggressive. I mean, I would love to see Grimes run straight down the middle and dunk on somebody, and I think we've seen that like once in his career, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's about it. He can do it more,
Oh,
I think
he's got the ability.
Athlete. He does stress me out because he seems a little jittery, like he just like chugged like a huge coffee before he got in the game. Seems a little, caffeine shakes there. So, slow it down on the no-dose pills, my brother, and let's just come out there and play solid ball.
Yeah, he's sipping like Red Bulls. He does that. The jittery thing is a good call because it's sometimes it just seems like he's so like it's almost like he seems like a dog who like you just grab the leash. You just grab the leash and he's just like, oh, we're going, hey, like and it's just there was the time yesterday where I saw him catch a ball and he pulls up and he rises up high and he's had a fairly quick release. So he gets that 3 off, but the guy ran out and closed on him so much. I'm like, dude, if you just turned and as he was running out on you, and OG is another player who does this really, really well, you just took a long step and a long dribble, you'd be right past him and you can go straight to the rim. We did see a little bit more aggression from him in both of these games. He's putting some shots up. As you and I, when we were watching the game together against the Timberwolves, we talked about, hey, maybe that RJ blocker was in front of him. Now he's not looking at this guy who's so similar to him, who's in front of him, and he's like, you know what, this is my time. It's let's go. We lost 2 players who get some of the minutes that I typically get, and now it's my time. I hope that continues to mature because if Grimes can be the player that he was at the end of last season, especially when Julius was hurt, if he could ever get to that player again, the Knicks would win the championship. I mean, he was fantastic during that stretch. He was averaging close to 20 points a game. He was shooting like some crazy percentage from three. But even just the player that he was when he was first inserted into the starting lineup last year, if he could just
Yeah.
be that guy, then all of this, second unit issues and all that, those things totally change. If he can just be that guy, I'm not sure that he can. I'm obviously hoping that he can. Like I said before, I think that defensively, him being able to play defense on the second best player at certain times as opposed to the best player, not having to play some of these guys that are just so much bigger. Like, Grimes, he's tasked with guarding guys like Tatum. No, he's not gonna have to
Can't
do
do
stuff like that anymore. So yeah, Tatum's too tall, he's too long. But hey, now we got OG. There's so many teams in the East now that I think of, and when I think about playing them, I'm like, yeah, but we got OG. Like, but OG's gonna
it.
guard
Huge
him,
difference.
right? Like,
Huge difference.
it's just that one player that you can put that is gonna make this guy work and make it a tough night for him, even if they are all world and they can still get off. He's going to again not stop them, but maybe somewhat contain them. Grimes, I think that this is obviously his opportunity, his moment to shine. We'll see if he makes it happen. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. And we'll see a lot of it tomorrow when they play Philly tomorrow night.
Yeah, Philly tomorrow
That'll be
night,
interesting.
and then Washington on Saturday. If we can figure out, obviously Philly's tough. We're playing them in Philly. There'll be plenty of Knick fans in there, as always, though. It'll be interesting to see, because we're playing another good team. Obviously, the Timberwolves are a very good team. And then we played, the Bulls, who, though they're like 10-6 in their last 16, I think.
Yeah.
And then this game against, we should beat Washington no matter what happens on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
If you figure out a way to win both of those games, I'll feel really, really, really strong about where we're at and where we're going. As far as where we're going, many people have said that the Knicks aren't done, that they are going to look to make another move. I think they definitely need to make another move for a ball handler combo guard type. Some of the names that you think of there, Clarkson, but fuck Danny Ainge. Who knows if we can ever make a deal with them? Brogdon, like Brogdon, but the injury history seems to always get dinged up.
Oh, he's
Scary
another
Terry.
little guy like that. Scary Terry.
No, Brogdon's not little. Brogdon's like 6'4", 6'5", Dad. Brogdon's more of a combo guard type. No, Brogdon's not little like that. He's at least, I
He
would
can
say,
shoot.
and he can shoot, and he's just a very versatile player. I mean, listen, if there wasn't the injuries, I would say he's the perfect player that we need as far as a guy on that second unit, and then also a guy who has a little bit of size that he can play with Brunson as well. Scary Terry, that's my issue with him. I've heard his name floated. First of all, I don't think he's going to be happy playing 15 minutes a game. I think he's going to want to do
Right.
more than that. And you
Right.
can't play him and Brunson next to each other ever.
No.
Marcus Smart, I like the idea of Marcus Smart. Yeah, Marcus Smart is that combo guard. He can guard your two. He can guard some threes as well. He can.
Marcus Smart going to be happy with 15 minutes a game?
That's the question with Marcus Smart. Is he going to be happy with that amount of playing time? I think that him and Thibs would love each other. We might be listen, everything's going to be fluid as far as the minutes thing. And I think that we're going to, as Thibs always says, certain guys are going to have to make sacrifices. And especially when it comes to those wing positions, that 2 and 3, and really the 2, because OG is going to get a majority of the minutes at the 3. When you start to look at all of those guys, there's going to be certain nights where you might even have it go. There's going to be nights where your boy DiVincenzo, who I love, his shot so pretty. When he puts it up, I think it's going
awesome
every single time. I love the way that, like I said recently, the way that he finishes breaks with layups, whether it be for him or for somebody else. Him and OG seem to have a little bit of synchronicity already. And there's all of those guys. There's going to be times where you might even have it going and having a good first half, and just the way that things work out, you end up only playing 15 minutes, and that's for Hart, for Grimes, for DiVincenzo, obviously for your boy Deuce. All of those guys are going to have to deal with that some nights.
Yeah, they are. And listen, that's real life. And if you want to be on a good team, that's what you're looking at. So I'm not worried about the guys on the team, but I think bringing in other people new, you have to be really careful now, because I think we have a good mixture now. I don't want to upset it. I didn't want to upset it before, But now this move for OG, I think, can really pay off. You're right. We could use another guard who can fill it up and put some balls in the bucket for us, especially with that second unit. But I just think you have to be really careful about who you choose and who you bring in there. But I trust Leon Rose and those guys. They've made, as I said, some very sober decisions, and I think they'll continue to do that.
Yeah, speaking of sober decisions, seems like a couple years ago we could have gotten Donovan Mitchell, but we weren't willing to give up what they were demanding, didn't blow that up. Obviously, he's been somebody who plenty of people have wanted to come to the Knicks, including myself. I have flip-flopped, I don't know, probably 3 times in the last 5 days on who I would rather have, DeJounte Murray or your boy Donovan Mitchell. I'm currently in the Dejounte camp. I think that first of all, he's 6'5", even though he's very slight. He is known as being a plus defender, especially getting in the passing lanes and creating havoc. I think you add him to OG and we become just a nightmare for a lot of teams defensively. He is shooting 38% from three this year, though he typically is not a very good catch and shoot player throughout his career. And I think that his ability to be kind of a lead guard from that shooting guard position would allow him to have some of those minutes with the second team where Brunson is sitting down and be the guy who's running the show. I think that if we can get him for, say, Grimes and some picks, take all those first. I take them all. I don't care. Whatever. Four Grimes and 4 picks. I know they gave up, I think, either 3 or 4 picks when they got him, so they probably we want looking to recoup that. I think if we can make that move, you make that move in a heartbeat. And I think if we add DeJounte to this current squad and we only give up, one player, and that one player is, somebody who's averaging 10, 15 minutes a game, I really, really think that team becomes a team that can come out of the East.
Yeah, DeJounte Murray would be a huge plus for us. I do love Donovan Mitchell too, being, homeboy, all that. But he, like you said, the size issue would be an issue. And DeJounte Murray makes us much more versatile in so many ways. And that defensive angle is huge. Like I said, we have to make every decision with defense in mind. And he would really add a lot to us defensively. Yeah, I think he would look great in a Knick uniform. I don't know if that happens. I don't know. What is his contract situation like after this year?
I think
He signed
he's got another 2 years at decently a pretty big money. Nothing crazy.
right.
I think he's
So
making like RJ money. You know what I mean?
right. So trading for him in the off season wouldn't. There's no advantage to
Right.
that
It's not a
versus
free. He's
during
not
the
a free
regular
agent.
season.
So we're gonna have to give something
Right.
up. And don't forget. So they say that the GM of the Hawks is open for business and looking to make a big trade, and that GM is one Mister Landry Fields.
That's right. That's right.
So come on, man, do us a solid, Landry. You had your best years as a Knick. His best years as an NBA pro were as a Knick. Now, I'm not
No,
saying they
I'm
were his
saying he's
best.
not going to do us a solid. I mean, it's not about that. But yeah,
Yo, listen, your boy Kevin McHale did the Celtics solids. Jerry West definitely did the Lakers a solid with those with the two Gasol brothers respectively. So
mm,
and with and KG being sent back to the Boston instead of being sent to the Lakers for a lesser deal because he wasn't going to send KG to the Lakers from the Timberwolves. So on a much smaller scale, OG, I'm sorry, Landry Fields.
Landry.
This is your chance to help us out and send us to Jonte for some picks and Grimes and go about your business. And I actually think that Grimes actually kind of works pretty well as a compliment to your boy Trae Young.
I think he'd be a good compliment to Trae Young. You know, it's just interesting to me that they're looking to blow that whole thing up now. What about the guy Hunter on their team? He's always hurt, right?
Always
Like,
hurt. Yeah, always hurt. I just doesn't move the needle enough for me. Out of the guys that I mentioned, really, in order for me, if with the two big fish we're talking about, obviously Dejounte and Spida, those would be my first two in order. And then give me Clarkson,
mm.
then but that's just not going to happen just because Danny
Right.
Ainge just refuses to deal with us. I mean, I even saw people talk about us getting Laurie Markkinen, which I'm not 100% sure how he fits because I don't know how much center he can play. But if
Right.
we could get a Brogdon or a Marcus Smart and just give me one other guy on the team who's 6'10" and can walk and chew gum at the same time, and I'm good to go. Let's go. But if we could go ahead and take that big swing and get Dejounte, that to me is the ideal move.
Right. No, that would be an exciting day when that happens. But what do we got till February 8th is the trade deadline, so we'll know by then. So, we basically got another month and we'll find out.
Okay, but we can't go through February 8th, depending on Deuce McBride to get, 10 to 15 minutes a game. I think if we wait until February 8th to do to remedy that scenario, however we do, that makes me very, very nervous. I like Deuce. It's definitely a confidence issue with him because his numbers in the G League, both overall cumulative stats as well as percentage wise, are fantastic. You can't tell me that the level of play is that drastic, but he just doesn't seem yet to be the type of player who is going to get us into offense, knock down shots, get to the rim every once in a while. I don't see it. I don't see it. I hope so. I hope so. I've had big hopes for this guy. We just gave him a 3-year extension, smaller contract. Good for him, good for the team, I think. I don't know if we can depend on him just yet to be a rotation player for a team that has, at least has, conference finals aspirations.
I agree with you. Yeah. Let's just go all in, get DeJounte. It's a wrap. Let's go and let's move forward. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm putting it out there in the universe. It's going to happen.
Hey, hey, if you're a fan of he did this to me, there you know that last week we were talking about the fact that RJ we're gonna have to start looking at the coming to that grim reality that he's gonna be somebody that gets traded. We even talked about possibly getting OG and Anobi, and just a few moments later, as the SpongeBob meme says, all right, so you heard it here first. Before we jump off the Knicks, one last thing that I wanted to talk about. Now, I have all of the respect, all of the admiration, and all of the love for this person because I have been entertained by them for years. They have totally changed the game. I agree with a lot of his takes. I realize that even when it comes to just you and I talking right now, you have Mike and the Mad Dog, you have your boy Skip, and you have Stephen A. And that's even why people want to see two people sit around and talk about sports the way that they do today. And I love Stephen A. Like I said, all the admiration, all the love for him. But I am so fucking tired of his takes when it comes to the Knicks. The guy claims to be a huge Knicks fan,
Right.
but he always says, I'm a huge Knicks fan, but I'm going to be honest about where they are and what they're doing. And I'm not going to I'm not going to give them the credit until they get to this certain place. He is the ringleader of this thing that almost all of the media does, where with the Knicks, it's never about where they're at. It's never about what they've done. It's always about what they're not. And it's so frustrating to me that every time you talk to him, he can't just say, hey, the Knicks have shown some prudence. They've shown some patience. They've gotten to this point, and they are now putting themselves in the position to be able to continue to get better. They have nothing but young players. It's not like with the Lakers with 40-year-old players. He never brings up any of those things. He just talks about what we don't have and says things like, well, they need to get out there and get somebody that's box office. The line he used last night where he said, I'm more famous than some of the Knicks, and that's a damn shame. Stephen A., I know it's kind of your shtick, your whole bravado kind of ego look at me thing. I just think that is such a that statement to me. Why do you need to say that? And also, Stephen A., what exactly do you want them to do? Exactly what they've always done for the last 20 years pre-Leon Rose, which is go out and take a
Exactly.
swing for some big name that's more box office, but doesn't actually add the things that we need to be a winning basketball team. I'm just so tired of his entire act, his entire shtick when it comes to the Knicks. And also, Stephen A., I know that you got a lot of stuff that you got a lot of responsibilities, you got a lot of sports you got to watch, all that. But your Knick fandom, know how strong your Knick fandom is because you're saying things like, "Well, now I gotta watch some guy named Hartenstein," like as if he's a nobody. Like you don't like what? What? Any person who knows ball and watches the Knicks understands that this is not just some guy. He is valuable, and he's been valuable since about the midpoint of last season.
Hmm.
Invaluable, to really talk about it. So his whole sometimes some of the things that he says he doesn't watch the Knicks very closely. I know he doesn't. He does not. And your Knicks fandom, okay, how about as opposed to feeding into all this bullshit and all this negativity that's been surrounding this organization for so long, how about you be a part of talking about the future and where we can go and not be the guy who is part of the problem? Because at this point, it's like, yo, do we have a bigger enemy in media than Stephen A?
It's all stick with him, Nick. It's all stick with him, and I've told you that for years. I do like Stephen A. I find him entertaining, but I realize he's all stick. As far as his Knicks fandom, Nick, he he's a front runner, man, with the Knicks. Okay, he's a front runner. He says, "Oh, I'm a huge Knicks fan. I'm a huge Knicks fan," but he is the first person to put the Knicks down if things don't go well. Um, I believe he's a Knicks fan because he's from New York. But just as we know, many Knicks fans are uber negative for good reason, some might say, because we haven't had the best last 50 years. I get that. That said, that's part of his shtick, being the angry Knicks fan, being the downtrodden Knicks fan, being the, shit talking Knicks fan. That's part of his whole act. So expect more of it. And anytime you see Stephen A being pumped on the Knicks, it's because something amazing or really good just happened. But just wait. If something bad happens, he's going to be shitting all over them as quick as anybody. And that's just who he is. So get used to it.
Obviously, a lot of what he does is shtick, and I respect him for it. I think that I look at him almost like a promoter for professional wrestling, where he's created this character and it's made him wildly successful. And I enjoy watching him. I enjoy his takes sometimes, and I just enjoy the entire act. Just it's just annoying because he claims to be such a huge fan of the same team that I'm such a huge fan of, and I feel like I have to defend the Knicks against Stephen A. half the time, and I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of the whole entire NBA and the way that the whole NBA media and the way that they cover the Knicks. It's like I said before, it's always about what we aren't as opposed to the strides that we're making. I don't hear that conversation about any other team, especially any other team who has no player of significance over 30. I never ever hear that narrative, but you always hear it with the Knicks. Shout to my man, Big Perk. Big Perk is one of our, he's one of the biggest, both both literally and figuratively. He's one of the biggest Knicks supporters that there is out there. As a guy who
Mm-hmm.
didn't grow up a Knicks fan, but he's consistently pointing out the fact that we are moving in the right direction. That Jalen Brunson. All this we need is star talk. Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle are stars. They are stars. They are superstars in this league right now. I don't. I know. We got to see some. We got to see him do it over time. We got to see it do them, especially Julius, do it in the playoffs. But they are stars right now. As a matter of fact, your boy Pig Perk on NBA Today said that Brunson is a top 15 player in the league right now.
I'm not going to argue with him for sure, but yeah, he's that guy, Nick. I mean, he's just so smooth, and his shot is so wet. Yeah, I'm. There's zero chance I could take away from Brunson's, the way he's played this season. I mean, he's nothing short of incredible, and we have to be very satisfied and very happy with him. That was one of the best signings maybe ever for the Knicks. It just really is amazing.
Yeah, and those, and like you said, those assist numbers, he averages in the sixes, 6 point something. When that number gets to like 8 point something because of the better spacing and the more shot making that OG brings, now that takes that conversation about him statistically, where you really have to start looking at like, okay, is this guy a second team all NBA type player? Really, really tough at the guard spot. There's a lot of really, really
There,
good
yeah,
guards in the league. So, that's not necessarily the easiest ceiling to crack. But at the end of the day, I do think that Brunson will continue to get better. Julius will continue to get better. I think they're both already top. I definitely would argue 15. You can't tell me outside of the top 20 in the league right now if you're watching basketball on a consistent basis and what these guys are doing on a night in, night out basis. And it, last night was cool because we got to see them do it both on the same night. We don't always get to see that so often. Last night they both had over 30.
hmm
And I just really wish that Stephen A. Like it's like, what do we got to do? Do the Knicks have, if the Knicks make it to a conference championship, he'll be talking about the fact that they made it to the conference championship, but they couldn't get past that, and they're still not a championship contender. It just seems like there's always something with this guy, Stephen A. Come on, man, it's the Knicks, it's your boy Hakeem. Give the Knicks a little bit of love.
Stop acting this guy to act like an actual fan, Nick. His stick is more important than his fandom. Okay, you're going to see stick first, second, and last with this guy. Forget about him, his fandom, Nick. I mean, it's all an act.
Yeah, no, I hear you. You're right. I don't think. I think that part of his issue is a lot of guys in the media don't like the Knicks just because of how the Knicks organization treats the media, which, whether you like it or don't, it's pretty well documented that there's some certain things that we do when it comes to the media that nobody else does. I think that he's also a guy who has covered them during one of the worst times in their history. And he can't just be a fan like you and I. He has to call things how they are. He definitely lays it on too
Right.
thick. He's definitely a little bit too pessimistic. And when it comes to the Knicks, it's always about what they're not and as opposed to what they currently are. Just, I'd like it to be different, but we'll see. Maybe.
Right.
What are we gonna have to do? That the day that I see him just really be pumped about the Knicks and sustain any type of optimism is a day I look forward to. Hopefully, the Knicks can accomplish that sometime in the very near future.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care what Stephen A. says about the Knicks. Makes no difference to me. It doesn't change my life at all. And yeah, makes me not care at all.
I hear you. I hear you. A little bit of Jets. Pro Bowl came out. Quinnen, second straight Pro Bowl. Sauce, second straight Pro Bowl. Both very, very deserving. A couple of snubs. I thought Quincy.
Yeah,
He seemed like he was a lock for the Pro Bowl up through about like week 10 of the season. Yeah, around there, around there. And the statistics, the eye-popping plays have definitely fallen off since then. I mean, really, the crescendo of his season was that tackle against Philadelphia when we won that game.
no.
I definitely thought that he was going to be a Pro Bowler for the first time back then. Hasn't worked out that way. Bit of a snub. It does still have a chance to be an alternate. Morstead also snubbed. He did get named as an alternate today.
Wow.
He did get named as an alternate today. So we'll see if he ends up being able to actually take that trip to. I think they do it in Orlando now, right? It's not in Hawaii anymore. I think it's in
Yeah, I
Orlando.
think it's in Orlando. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think about Quentin and Sauce getting there, Quincy, and is there anything else Jets wise that you want to chat about?
Well, Quinton and Sauce are obviously deserving. Obviously think Quincy is deserving as well. I think Quincy might get in as an alternate, but listen, Quincy, you did it this year. You played really well. If he does it again next year, I think he's in. But regardless, I love Quincy. I got no problems with Quincy. I wish he would get the recognition, but that's not up to me or you. As far as other snubs, I'm surprised that Morstead is not like first team. I don't know who the first team punter is, but it's not Morstead, which I'm surprised about because I don't think anybody did more punting than him. He should be on the team simply because
Just
he
for
punted
volume.
well and just for volume. He's just I mean, come on, man. The guy's he kept us in many a game. So I think he deserved more of a shot. What about Greg the Leg?
No, I don't. He definitely did not make it, but I wouldn't even think that he would have much of a chance.
He had a pretty good year,
He
but
did
I
have a
don't know
pretty
what
good year.
other field goal kickers did. So I don't know. I don't know how he matches up against these other guys. But listen. Obviously, there's not a lot of Pro Bowl players on the Jets team. There's nobody on the offensive line. Defensive line is already accounted for. Um, there's not many people. There's nobody on the whole offense who deserves to be in the Pro Bowl.
No,
So
no.
so
I mean,
I don't think we got snubbed too many times. I mean, like I said, Quincy. That's about it. Who was deserving, who didn't get in.
yeah, I think that I heard some people say that they think Brees might get a chance to be an alternate. AJ Cole is the punter for the Raiders. He's the
I don't know what he's done. I've never heard.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know shit about any other punter other than
Right.
the Jets punter
Never heard of this guy's
that
name.
season. Like, yeah, I mean, other than a Jets punter in a given season, I'm not out here paying too much attention to punters. But Zerline, I'm sorry, Morstead. He's the best punter I ever seen this season. I mean, his ability, like you said, he kept us
Unbelievable.
in games. There's games where he kept us in games. They game against the Giants, we won that game because of him, like no doubt.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's hard for me to understand how another punter was better than him. This guy, Moore, said he's the nice guy in the world. He made an Instagram post where he gave the credit to AJ Cole and said he did deserve, and he was very happy that he was named an alternate. So we'll see what happens with that. Offensively, Garrett Wilson ends up having 1,000 yards in this mess, but not a Pro Bowl level type season.
No.
And Brees just didn't get enough carry. He didn't get enough opportunity. We had too many 3-and-outs
Right.
for him to be able to put up the stats that he would need to, be a Pro Bowler. Definitely has the talent, definitely has the ability, and hopefully we can see that next season. All right, jumping over to etc. Kevin Durant. There was a quote recently that said, "You talk to people in Phoenix and around the organization, they can feel the frustration." And this is coming from Woj, who, as far as sources go, he's about as high as he can go, as good as he gets, right? And my question for you, because I know that you have some opinions about Kevin Durant in general. You got the Suns, they're 18 and 16, they're ninth in the West. Beal can't get on the floor. He stays hurt, always hurt. They don't have a great supporting cast, just because when you go out and you get three big time players like that, you're going to have to give away most of your role players to be able to bring in that sort of talent. And you're also going to have to give away your assets. So they have no assets to be able to really get better and really even make any moves. So what they have right now is kind of is what it is. And then some of your best role players, you got guys like Eric Gordon who are screaming to whoever wants to hear it how he's not happy with his role. So what do you with Kevin Durant? This is always a question because we have seen him now 3 different times be in a situation that he either helped orchestrate or wanted to be in, and then ask out very quickly. And it seems like that page turns very, very quickly for him. So my question for you is, what do you think about Durant right now, the Suns overall, and just him overall as a guy and as a player, and what do you predict's happening with him and how it all ends for him here in the Valley?
Well, I mean, look, let's face it. He's a great player. One of the greatest we've ever seen. Just an outrageous scorer. I mean, one of the greatest we've ever seen. He's not a leader. This is something I've said about him before. And that doesn't mean he's a bad person. I just don't think he's a leader. It's not who he is, and not everybody is a leader. That's fine. Now, you'd hope that somebody else on that team would be the leader, be the glue, be the guy that, hey, guys, you guys just follow my lead. Let's go. I don't think he's that guy. Now, I don't know that their record being as bad as it is for a team with all those stars, I don't blame that on him. I think they need a better supporting cast, but I think that is not going to get much better. It's going to end up going south, and I do think, just throwing this out there, if things really go south for them, they could be looking to blow it up next summer. If they're looking to blow it up next summer, we may have some assets we want to throw at. Bring us Devin Booker. Let's go. Can you imagine if we could get Devin Booker? I mean, come
Devin
on.
Booker, he's the dream. He's the
Right.
the other day
He's
you asked
that guy.
when you said to me, you said, are there any other players that you could see the Knicks, that you would want to see the Knicks get to bring in other than Murray or Dejounte? I'm sorry, Dejounte or Spida. And my answer was some pipe dreams, mainly Devin Booker. He's the perfect complement to everything that I don't know if there's a team that would be like, yeah, we don't need a guy like that.
Nobody would say that.
Nobody would say that. I mean, his jumper is just so wet. He plays actually a better defender than a lot of people think. He can go to the hole. He's fairly durable. Love Devin Booker. As far as Durant, like you said, not a leader. He's just not. He's
Never has been.
All-time great player. I will never forget the first time I ever saw him play at Texas. And there's much to do about him. Everybody was talking about this kid. He gets on the court. He's, you see him on the court. He's a string bean. And early in the game, I remember the ball getting kicked to him at the wing, and he pulled up and he shot. And that shot looked so pure. And back then, you didn't see guys who were that tall who shot like that. And it was just like, yo. And I back then I said you should take him instead of Odin. I didn't like the fact that Odin came in with a back issue. I don't want to. To me, you don't draft injury history under any circumstance, and especially not big man back and foot injury history. So I was the proponent back then. Hey, Durant is going to be the better player to come out of this draft. Had a crazy year in college at Texas that year, and he's been maybe the just overall, as far as his bag and what he can do and the effortlessness that he can do it, I would say that he may be the best player I've ever seen as far as just that in a vacuum, as far as his offensive ability. But again, like you said, the leader part, he's not a guy that's galvanizing his team, that is making other men follow him in the way that he handles himself and the way that he plays. He's got some injury history as well, which, any guy that tall and that skinny, they're going to have. And now it's like, yo, if he ends up wanting out and asking out again, for the Suns, now he just really becomes this guy who was just like, yeah, he went from this team to that team. He was chasing rings. Maybe he gets another one. Maybe he doesn't. But it's really taken him, to me, out of this conversation. As great as I think he is, I won't put him in any of my top, greatest ever conversations because of the way that he has bounced around, never really been the alpha on his team ever. He's never been the alpha on his team. You can argue that Russell Westbrook was the alpha instead of him on that team. Steph was clearly the alpha on that team. I don't care if he won the MVPs and he did all that. He went to Steph's team, okay? And this is actually, I honestly don't really love the whole like who's the alpha, whose team is it argument. But with this guy, it is something to talk about because he's such a great and such a dominant player, but he keeps moving around and he seems like he's always following somebody, no matter where he goes.
Listen, I don't think he's a leader, but I don't think he's an alpha. But I don't think that really matters if you have someone else on the team who can be that guy. Every team needs somebody like that or a collective like that. I don't get that impression from the Suns. I think I said to you a couple of years ago when we were talking about Durant when he first went to Brooklyn, which, by the way, like I told you, I think we dodged the bullet by not getting Durant because I don't think Durant, first of all, like you said, has an injury history, and I'm worried about that going forward. And then also, Nick, this is just an off-the-cuff statement, and I think I've made it to you years ago. I don't think Durant wins another championship. As good as he is, I don't think he does because, it takes more to win a championship. He happened to join that team in Golden State that was ready-made, just add Durant. It was all just add water kind of thing. I don't think he's going to run into that again with anybody. And he's not going to go to a team and make everybody better. He makes other people better in the respect that he makes shots and that he's an efficient and very good scorer, but he doesn't lift people. He doesn't lift people. He just doesn't, like, in a way that, like, say, LeBron does. And I mean, listen, to compare him to LeBron, compare anybody to LeBron is unfair, pretty much, except for a couple guys, Jordan
Right.
and Kobe. So it's a tough thing to put on him. But I just don't think that's going to be him, man. It's just a prediction, but I just don't think he's going to win again.
I don't think I'm with you on that. I don't see him winning another championship, especially not as one of the best players on the team, because
Right.
you're either going to have to give, just like with the Phoenix situation, you're going to have to give up so much to get him that your roster is now decimated and you don't have the collective that you need. And the teams that are really, really close, they don't typically have the assets to be able to give up to get to get a guy like that. I mean, remember he signed with Golden State. They didn't have to give up anything. That's one of the reasons they were able to make that work. And I don't know when it seems like in today's world, a player like himself never actually reaches free agency. They always, are re-upping before they get to that point. So I could definitely see him not doing it. I don't think it's happening here in Phoenix, just for the simple fact that you cannot rely on Bradley Beal to be on the floor. Bradley Beal is immensely talented. He's such a good basketball player. He
Right.
is an offensive juggernaut and just a straight up, can fill it up type of player. But even when people talked about the Knicks getting him, I always said, no, he gets hurt too much. Point
Yeah.
blank. With the game
Because
that we
that's
went to, he came back. That was supposed to be his debut, and they're supposed to play. He sprains his ankle like 2-3 minutes into the game. Some of it's bad luck. He comes down on a guy's foot. That sucks, but it happens over and over with this guy. He's never going to be healthy. Stop thinking that I said to a couple of my boys who are Suns fans, and everybody was talking about the Suns are going to be this and that before the season, and I saw a lot of people predicting them to be in the finals, if not win it all.
Yeah.
And I said, when he got hurt and they were bitching about it, I said, wait, so you guys thought that Bradley Beal was going to be healthy? Like that, like you're depending on that? Come on, man. That doesn't make sense. And then the other thing is that with him in and out of the lineup all the time, when you have three great scorers and people that play that way, they need time to figure that shit out on the court. They need
Right.
time to play together. You cannot just have these guys play sporadically together throughout the season and then hope that they're all going to be healthy come playoff time and roll it out and see what happens. As we know, in the NBA, that shit don't work. Okay?
Doesn't work. Doesn't work. And to get back to your boy Stephen A, because I'm pretty sure early in the season or before the season, I'm pretty sure he predicted Phoenix to go really far, if not be in the championship.
He had him in the finals.
He's right in the finals. He's very upset with how Phoenix is playing. But again, this is why, Nick, you can't listen to this guy when it comes to that, because he thinks that Phoenix is going to be so great because they got the shiny objects. They got this pretty watch and this pretty bracelet over here, but they're not a team. And you know what? You can have the shiny objects, but over a 7-game series, a team will take you apart. They will not, they won't beat they won't beat a Denver. They wouldn't beat a Boston, But then again, this is the other thing I've heard a couple of people say. When you look at Denver, They didn't just throw that together a year or two ago. They've been building that for like 7 years.
Exactly.
And they kept their guys and they kept working and bringing in the right pieces, not doing stupid, knee-jerk moves where you're spending all sorts of money on one guy because he's that guy. No. Like you said, Nick, we have to keep building, but to the point where we have assets to get what we want. Phoenix has boxed themselves in a corner. They just can't really do anything else now. They can't do anything else, and they don't have, you can have all the sweet shooters and guys who can dunk all you want, but you need some guys who do the lunch pail work too, and do the other things on the court. They don't have that, and they just don't have it, man, and the only way they can do it is if the other guys on that team, seriously start making like overt efforts to be better players and to like dive after balls and all that. The one player who could lead them that way is Kevin Durant. He won't do it.
Right.
And that's just not who he is. But now, mind you, now Kevin Durant may not do that because, I mean, look, man, he's had some injuries. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be throwing your body all over the place if you're Kevin Durant, right? But they need somebody else on the team to do that. They need like a PJ Tucker. Who's
They got
PJ Tucker?
Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen is kind of that guy.
Grayson Allen is
He's
kind of
kind of
that
that
guy. Yeah,
guy. I just think that in today's NBA, your team needs to be deep, man. And I just
right.
think that, I think if you take a 40 or $50 million player of year, a player, $1 million per year player, and you make him somebody who's always in and out of the lineup, any team's going to struggle with that. Any team's going to
That's right.
struggle.
That's
And
right.
that's what they have in Bradley Beal. I don't understand investing all of that money into a guy who has never shown the ability to consistently be available on the court. I don't
You
see
know
it.
what the deal is, Nick? Those GMs sat around, they talked about it, and they sat there and they said, but if those guys can stay healthy for 1 year, that was the conversation. They were like, okay, let's go for it. And now it blew up in their face, man. And I don't think it's going to get any better, man. I mean, come on, man. It's not like Bradley Beal's going to come back in a week and be around for the rest of the season. There's like, in my mind, zero chance of that happening.
Catch us every week on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification button on all platforms. Really appreciate all the love. We try and stay as current as possible, so episodes will drop on Thursdays or Fridays, depending on the Knicks schedule. You can find us on all socials at he_did this to me. Love you, big guy.